made a concept video about 6 years ago on something that I thought would have been really cool, but after replaying Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 recently, it made me want to revisit that idea because it made even more sense than ever before. That's right, 6 years ago I made a video talking about what if Mario Galaxy had a game style within Mario Maker 2 or the next Mario Maker 3. After replaying Mario Galaxies 1 and 2, I came to the ultimate conclusion that this would just make way too much sense. So I want to revisit that topic one more time and talk about how Mario Galaxy game style would be perfect and a great addition, even better than what they did with 3D World. Real quick before we get started, let's see how many people we can get to subscribe today. If you guys are new to this channel, you'll want to stick around because there's so much stuff coming out for the rest of this year and so many more things that I want to talk about with Mario Galaxy, and we are super close to 400,000 subscribers. Let's see if we can get to 380,000 very soon, maybe even before the month is over, so you can do that by just leaving a like and subscribing. Thank you guys so much, and let's get on to the video. Let's shoot over to Galaxy 1 and talk about some of the mechanics and things that they could actually incorporate within this game style. So one thing that you'll see in lots of the 2D styles is that there's a lot of gravity mechanic rooms where, you know, there's arrows pointing as to where the gravity is moving. Now, incorporating something like this into Mario Maker is probably very much easier said than done, but imagine if you could put up back panels against the back walls of levels and pretty much dictate which direction the gravity is facing. And depending where Mario's body crosses the plane, it will allow you to go up onto the ceiling or down onto the floor or even side on the two walls. This can allow for some crazy types of level design. If you want to have a level where its entirety is you facing sideways on the right wall, you can do that. Or maybe the entire level you're walking on the ceiling or the roof of a building, you can also do that. Now technically this is a thing in Mario Maker 2, I forget which specific game style, but if you turn it to night, you actually run on the ceiling, which is pretty interesting, and gravity is inverted. So if you can actually somehow code in the panels to actually work with where Mario's at, I'm sure this is something that they could bring over just what they used for Mario Galaxy. It shouldn't be too much of an issue. But the problem is when people start getting super creative, I can see that's where it's going to start causing bugs. Like for instance, you're going to have some sort of kill plane. If you reach an area that doesn't have those arrows, you need to be able to place like black holes or something that can suck you up, which I'm sure is something that they could do, just being able to throw a black hole here or there. But I guess if you fly off into a part of the map that doesn't have an arrow, it would just bring you down automatically. So, I mean, either way, they could find workarounds for this, but this should be one of the main ideas incorporated in a Mario Galaxy game style. We're going to talk about items too, but I just want to jump into the drill item real quick because there's a whole level even dedicated to that with the gravity mechanics in mind, where you can dig through dirt to reach another area that you can also change the gravity of. It's not just the gravity arrows that's going to be the main highlight of the Galaxy game style, because if you even just boot up Galaxy 2 and go throughout the first opening stage, it's an entire 2D level. So you can make a basic level just with Mario's moveset, where he has his triple jump, his side flip, his back flip, and he even has his Galaxy signature spin move. Just having this moveset alone already makes Mario more athletic than any other game style so far. His long jump would be way longer than that of 3D Worlds, and like I said, just having that spin alone opens the door for tons of possibilities. Now, Galaxy has a lot of 2D sections that also has little planetoid platforms that you can run all the way around, and once again, that's what makes this game style so different, is that gravity mechanic, where you can actually place certain platforms and turn on gravity for those platforms, where you can place giant circles that Mario can run around and stuff, and you can make your own little planets and even decorate them the way you want. Maybe cover them in grass, sand, or maybe ice. And without diving too deep into boss battles already, but I mean, like, look at the Dig-a-Leg boss battle, where you can create this little circular platform and maybe just slap a Dig-a-Leg boss down there, and obviously it would spawn the drill that you can use every single time. Now, continuing on the planetoid and gravity mechanic, Mario Galaxy 2 also has these giant tube-like structures that you can pretty much just wrap all the way around. Now, when Nintendo allow us to create something like this might be a little too extra. Now, it is entirely in 2D technically, it's just the stage itself is a 3D model of a giant log that you can wrap around. Like I said, it would just come down if Nintendo would allow us to play something like this. If they did, it would probably have to already be pre-made, with all the platforms on on the log already and all the obstacles already slapped on the log, where you can just place these things in your level and maybe add enemies onto those platforms. For instance, maybe you can grab an enemy and put it onto the log and the game will automatically place the enemy on one of the platforms on that log or something. But I don't know, it felt like it gave the game a cool 2.5D perspective, so maybe there's like 3 or 4 different style of logs, like a wooden one from the tree area, a Bowser's Castle one full of metal and fire, or one full of electricity like I just showed. There's multiple different versions of this log-like platform thing that Nintendo used in Galaxy 2, so this could be a pretty cool element to add in Mario Maker. And the last thing I want to add with the gravity mechanics is some rooms actually slightly changes the gravity as you move upwards on a wall or up to the ceiling if you have curves or bends. Now, maybe there's something within the game's code that actually allows you to do this, where if you put a ramp or a smooth curve up a wall, it will change the gravity as you run up it. But honestly, I don't even know how this code works, if it's tied to specific platforms or not, because in some rooms, if you stand on a moving block, it moves, or if you run up a wall, it moves, but if you jump up a wall, it doesn't move. So yeah, it's a little strange how all that works. But one of my favorite examples is one of the castle stages in the game. I think it works extremely well, how you're running up the sides of walls and up into the ceiling and stuff, and being able to create a level where you can just like run all around everywhere without falling is something that sounds pretty cool to me. Now this helps me to segue into another element that I really like, is that there are some water segments that kind of just exist in their own plane, which means you don't have to make the entire level a water level or just even add a little bit that's only at the bottom of your stage. You can actually place water wherever you want thanks to the gravity here. I was actually a pretty big fan of this, and if they even allow you to have the little green or red shell in order to swim around with, would be such a cool addition in a 2D game like this. Let's face it, making a water level in Mario Maker right now kind of sucks. None of the game styles really do it justice, and they all pretty much feel the same, where Mario just slowly floats down or floats up, where in Mario Galaxy he actually has swimming mechanics. So incorporating something like this in Mario Maker could make for some actually fun 2D water levels for once, and I'm down for it, especially if they add things like the red or green shells, and you can even control the air gauge of the player by dropping specific coins and air bubbles for players to pick up as they're swimming. But also, there's some elements where there's just straight up floating water, where you can literally just place blocks of water almost Minecraft style wherever you want, and you can even have just like a whole area that's just floating in space with lines of water that you can swim through and hop out. Something like that also just sounds amazing. Now let's get into some items and mechanics that can be thrown into some of these 2D levels, and I want to first start off by just showing some more 2D levels that are in the game, or at least 2D/3D levels. You could add the tornadoes that allows Mario to jump in, spin up, and turn into pretty much a human helicopter as he flies through the air. I don't think there's going to be launch stars, because I don't know how you can control those unless you can make a path from one launch star to one area, which maybe they'll allow us, but I think these sling stars make a lot of sense, where they could just sling you upwards to a higher area. Now the 3D World game style allowed the background to interact more with the actual gameplay, shooting bullet bills and just having multiple things back there, including some climbable cages. So what if we actually had the honey hives where you can actually stick to as B Mario? You could place some enemies like Paragoombas, Bugabooms, falling meteors and stuff to get in your way, and as much as I hate B Mario, I feel like maybe some people can create some fun ways to use him, and I feel like he will 100% have this power up in a Mario Galaxy game style. And there's a couple levels that actually have full 2D segments that are dedicated to B Mario, flying up on cloud platforms that you can place and even flower platforms that you can place, where you can only stand on these as B Mario. You can even add bouncing fruit, maybe some vines that you can swing on to go to the next area, and even poles that you can climb up and down and maybe even attach some fuzzies to. Something else I totally forgot to mention so far is there's no goal pole this time. It's going to be the first time where you actually just have to reach the star, which can be placed literally anywhere on the stage. I know this technically isn't a 3D stage that I'm showing right now, but what if you could have a stage that just has moving platforms? Like, I mean, it happens in pretty much every game style already, but you can have a platform that you put on a designated path, and maybe you can have things in the background like cannons that are firing at Mario, and you can even change the gravity of the platforms and stuff. So you can have a platform that's moving left to right, but on the ceiling this time. So that would be pretty interesting. Maybe you want to have a haunted theme stage where it actually plays with the light manipulation, where where wherever the light is aiming is where the stage is actually going to appear. And maybe you can actually just place all the platforms and, you know, place a lighting effect that moves left and right and makes the platforms appear and disappear. And then of course, you could even use the spring mushroom, which is everybody's favorite, right? I personally don't have a problem with this item, but I mean, I can see people making some extremely difficult levels with this, where you have to spring jump up through platforms and jump on swinging platforms and stuff. I feel like that could be a really cool addition. Cloud Mario could possibly be one of the coolest new items, simply due to the fact that it allows Mario to place down 3 platforms of his own, so you can create some absolutely insane levels by placing some windmills, have the fans moving, and maybe having a really precise jump, or having to place your platforms in very specific areas in order to reach the next area. But this right here alone is something that I think I would be the most excited for, is just using the Cloud Flower, because it has so many cool applications. I mean, just like the Grandmaster Galaxy, you could even make a laser maze that you have to get through. You can place these little balls and connect them with electricity, and that way you can create your own little path that the player would have to navigate Mario through. Or what if you want to make a level where you play as Boo Mario, where you can actually turn invisible in order to go through those cages, or use fans once again to be blown in specific directions. I mean, it's still kind of crazy to me that we never got Boo Mario in Mario Galaxy, so this would be a great way to bring this back, right? But perhaps this is where I'm going off the deep end, but you let me know if this would make sense to you guys. So obviously Yoshi would be in this game, and there's ways to just have Yoshi in a 2D stage, and I'm about to get into that in a second. But what if they pull a Mario Wonder, where in one of the Wonder events, it actually allows you to move around and freely walk on the back wall? And there's also a Yoshi stage that allows you to do this as well. So what if some stages you're able to actually put up a ramp that takes you onto the back wall, and you can freely move on the back wall? That would be the coolest thing ever, and a slight step into making a 3D Mario Maker, but regardless, I don't think that's gonna happen. That might be a little too much for Nintendo to code and get right, but I mean, we could all dream and wish, right? But realistically, we'll probably be able to just grab and use those flower things that Yoshi can grab with his tongue and fling through the air, and that alone makes for some pretty cool level designs and concepts they could come up with, placing some enemies in your path and stuff, or some cannons that are firing at you. That would be pretty cool. Maybe there's levels that once again revolve around the light, where you can use the light fruit in order to make platforms appear that you've already placed down, or maybe even the blimp fruit, where you can just fly up as high as you can go and maybe navigate a maze that you created. And once again, I know this isn't necessarily a 2D stage, but they could definitely make it one, where every single time you spin, the platforms will move between the red and the blue. I think that could actually work pretty well in a 2D game. And the last thing I want to bring up that might sound kind of insane is the pool stars. So maybe there's an entire level where the screen is just positioned in a 2D fashion, but you can use pool stars up, down, left, right, wherever you want all over the screen. I don't see how this would change too much of the game or try to make it into a 3D game at all, where you're just kind of pulling Mario and yanking him across the screen. Combine this with the Sling Pods and you can make yourself an even more difficult version of Sling Pod Galaxy. But I think this could also be a really cool way to make levels. Maybe your entire level is just about slinging Mario around, which if you can do that, maybe they'll allow us to make an entire level about just blowing Mario around in the bubble, where you can just use your cursor and blow him through an obstacle course created by somebody, you know, where they're able to place lasers in an obstacle course, and maybe even have you collect a certain amount of things. Maybe there's 5 silver stars that you can place in a level, or even 5 pieces of a launch star that you can place in order to get to the next area. But man, this would also be something that would truly make this game stand out. And now that you can actually play the Galaxy games with a Pro Controller, you don't necessarily need to force people to use the Joy-Con or anything like that. I mean, I played through the entirety of Galaxy 1 and 2 with a Pro Controller and had little to no issues at all. So this would still be able to work in something like Mario Maker. Now, we've already talked about some boss battles like Dig-a-Lig, but what else could you add into a 2D game? Now, I don't want to force something that just genuinely wouldn't make sense, so I try to think hard here. What if something else added to this Mario Galaxy game style is the ability to actually interact with the background? I know 3D World's game style got very close to doing that, but now there's like switches and things that you can actually hit back there, which means you can actually throw shells into the background. So you could have Bowser Jr. in his airship spawn, where it pretty much just moves back and forth and tries to fire at you as you take it down in 3 to 4 hits. Now, I think with doing this, you can open the door for a lot of 2D boss battles. Like you can have a 2D boss battle against King Caliente, where you're just moving to the left and the right, and he's firing that fruit at you from the background, and all you have to do is spin hit it when it comes near you. You could have Major Burrows, but imagine him on a circular 2D platform, something like how you fought Dig-a-Leg on, where he chases you around this platform in the same fashion, where you have to ground pound in order to make him come out. He then rushes you, ground pound again, and then run over and hit him. Baron Burr is already an incredibly simple boss battle and something that can easily be slapped into a 2D game. If the Pool Star and Sling Pods are a thing, maybe it'll even allow you to add something like Tarantox, where you can just fling yourself into his body in this little circular planet area. Even Top Man could work, where you can maybe make a ball of electricity on the left and one on the right, and then slap Top Man in the middle, where you have to jump into its head and then spin him to the left or to the right in order for him to take damage into the electrical beam. Maybe you can build your own gunner boss fights, where you can place his tank on a really tall tower that you made or any type of structure that you made, so you can almost create your own boss battle and just slap him on the top of whatever structure that you developed. And if Nintendo does do that background thing, there's so many more bosses they can do. For instance, they can have Camilla throwing fireballs and green shells for you to grab and throw back, or King Lakitu firing spinies at you that you can grab with Yoshi and spit back at him. Swap out the 3D planet for a 2D one, where you just run around the outside of it and Gobblegut is just drilling through the middle and coming out on different sides, and you can actually see where he's drilling through, and you still just have to pop the boils on its body. But where it gets difficult is you have to have a Bowser boss fight, and I feel like the best way to do this is to pull from Galaxy 1s, and instead of running around a 3D planet once again, this time it's still that circular gravity planet like we fought Dig-a-Leg on. There's maybe 4 glass domes, one on the top, one on the bottom, one on the left side, and one on the right side of this circular planet. Just like with the original 3D fight, you have to get Bowser to break through the glass, and then he'll start sprinting around and around the planet, where you have to hit him multiple times as he's spinning around in his shell, very similar to the original boss fight. But doing this in more of a 2D space could look really cool as well. Look, I could make this video an hour long, sit here and give you all the different game themes like the desert, the snow, the lava, give you tons of more obstacles and enemies that you can throw into this game, but I think you could figure those out for yourself, because most of the enemies and obstacles that work in the 3D portions will also work in the 2D ones as well. And with all those different game themes that we have, with the snow, desert, and lava areas just being some of them, they could easily fill that up as well. But man, after playing these 2 games, that's all I could think about, and it makes me even more excited more and more when I think about how this could actually become a reality with Mario Maker 3. If the next Mario Maker isn't going in a 3D direction yet, if they just instead decide to add Mario Galaxy as a game style and maybe even Mario Wonder, I feel like they could definitely pull that off, and it would be an awesome new addition. But what do you guys think? Do you think we're ever going to get a Mario Galaxy game style? And if we do, what do you want to see included in it? And do you think any of these ideas, or maybe all of these ideas, will work? And let me know in the comments down below, and like always, I hope you all have a blessed day. See you guys.